And, well, number one, obviously, thank you for being on the call, and thank you for all of your good work so far. You know, you are, I don't want to say you're the perfect student, but you're the kind of student that I enjoy having in a class, because not only are you responsible and responsive, but you have intelligent things to say. Your
Oh yeah.
comments are not bullshit. So perhaps you can understand how much more satisfying that is to be on my end and have
Yeah.
somebody like you on the other end. So thank you. That's a big compliment, and it's totally sincere. I'm not often sincere, but I want to be sincere about that. As far as grades,
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate. So we are in a mutually appreciative situation. CJ, I don't think you're missing anything. I did look, I think it was 2 days ago, at all the grades in the class, and people who were doing what they needed to do were going to be around 1,000 points so far. And at that point, you were over 1,000 points. And you have one of the highest point totals in the class in terms of things completed. So I have nothing to yell at you about.
Right. I made sure I was precise.
Good. I did want to point out that the first quiz, the welcome quiz, you know, the George Washington, you know, whatever. I posted a grade. Anybody who did that quiz, whether or not they got the answers right, that wasn't the point of that quiz, got 100, and I listed it under, in the grade book, under the Start Here quiz, which is really
the sample quiz. Yeah, I saw.
So that's there. The next paper is due, I think, on November 1st.
Yes, I actually plan to start looking for the source sometime at the beginning of this, either this weekend or the beginning of the coming week.
Good. Well, I mean, I know you'll get it done. You'll get it done on time. My real concern in this class, for those who actually have an interest in what we're doing, is to create a mindset that includes what I think people who are involved in making marketing decisions need to consider. Thus, the weekly notes, which I have noticed nobody in particular is looking at, stuff like that. But I'm pointing at the last paper. And I look at that as an opportunity for people to, in essence, make something up and show me not only that they understand. I mean, the principles of marketing are easy.
Yeah.
I've said before, I wish they were more complex so I could pretend to be smarter, but you know, that's not the case. So hopefully that's an opportunity to combine some imagination with some actual, you know, black letter law learning. But I'm starting something new, and I'll put this in writing afterward, because obviously you're the only person who's going to hear it directly, which is peer review. So I'm going to say, when you do a paper, look at the email list at the top of one of the emails, and you send your paper to the person right after you. In your case, that would be Tracy Slater, who may not even be in the class anymore. We'll just look at the list. So then that person sends it to the next person. And the idea is, I'll give you 4 or 5 days to comment on that person's paper. So it's not just me saying, CJ, I think you missed this point, or CJ, that was a great paper, or whatever, but somebody taking the time to say, oh, well, you know, I think you missed the point, or, you know, whatever. So just to try to give an opportunity for some person-to-person engagement that isn't just from me to you, it's from somebody else to you. As far as other things, I have not gotten a syllabus acknowledgement from a lot of people in the class, actually from very few. So for those who are looking at the video, that would be an important thing. I continue not to get responses from most people when I send out an email. I've asked if I send an email and you get it, just reply, got it, so that I know that it's getting there. And I do post basically the contents of any substantive email on both the announcements and the messages tabs in Blackboard. But for some reason, I am not able to provoke many of the students in the class to acknowledge that they've gotten it. I'll repeat, and this is redundant for you, headers. When you send me something, whether it's through Blackboard or whether it's an attachment to an email or in the body of an email, I got to know your name. I got to know what class you're in, because I have classes other than marketing. I got to know the date, and I got to know the assignment. So, CJ, 1010, principles of marketing, or 220, 100, and assignment 47. And it seems pretty obvious, but so far that is not necessarily happening. The potential for personal meetings, and you and I are having a personal meeting right now, is always there. So if there's something somebody wants to talk about, it can be substantive, it can be procedural, just ask me and I'll set it up. All right. There are two things. I wanted to create an opportunity, and I don't know that this is something that, it's not something you certainly need to do based on your performance, but if you wanted to, or somebody else who maybe is performing at a less
Is this the peer review you're talking about?
No, this is something entirely different. I'm trying to think of ways to force people to look at the contemporary marketing landscape. So I mentioned this in a previous Zoom call, but I'm going to turn it into an extra credit opportunity. There is a huge competition right now on television among the various auto insurance companies. Liberty Mutual has the EMU. Progressive has its Flow. Geico has obviously the Gecko, but other things. Allstate has Dennis Hasbro, the deep voice, whatever guy. AAA has an entirely different approach, but it has a different audience, a military connected audience. So I'll put it in writing, but let's say you wanted to do this. And as I said, based on where your grades are, certainly it's not necessary, but just to comment on what you think are the more or less effective approaches and why. So it's an opinion. It's not like you got to go research this and say, well, 37% of Americans say that Flow is, better than the Gecko or whatever. I just want to create an opportunity for people to express an opinion based on what we've been doing in the class. So not just, I like geckos, I've always liked geckos. It's something that indicates that you understand the competitive marketplace and how people are positioning themselves. Obviously, there's a lot of humor involved. Why is that? Why would humor be something that people would employ in auto insurance advertising? Well, one answer might be that it makes it more memorable. I don't know. So you get the idea? It's totally voluntary. The other thing I wanted to discuss, and you and I can discuss it, although I'm pretty sure I know where you stand politically from our previous conversation. I wanted to discuss reactions to the two debates. I would say, this is my opinion, no more valid than anybody else's opinion, that the first debate to me was an embarrassment. I was thinking that I think there are 193 nations in the UN, that there were 192 international leaders who were looking at that saying, tisk, tisk, tisk. And I thought the vice presidential debate started out much more
civil.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it when Pence said, and I thought he pulled it off. I'm not sure he believed it, but when he said, it's an honor to be here on the stage with you, Senator Harris. And I just thought that was a nice gesture. And then it deteriorated a little bit. I was disappointed in Pence, not in terms of the substance of what he had to say, but when he continued to talk at considerable length after the time was up. I think you should finish your thought. So you have 2 minutes, and so you go over by 10 seconds to finish the thought, but you don't, in my mind, get to keep going and keep going. And they both did it, but I thought Pence was a little bit more, a little less responsible. I thought, and this just think of how, unintended consequences or things that you can't anticipate. The fly lands on Pence's head. And what happens? Everybody's tweeting like crazy during the debate about the fly on Pence's head. And if this were an election that would appear to be closer than this one appears to be, then something like that was distracting from the performance of one of the, pivotal players. Who the hell knew there was going to be this fly? And who the hell knew people were going to be focused on that as opposed to what somebody had to say? So things like that. I haven't read anything, and maybe you have. Did Pence acknowledge that he was aware that the fly was there? You know what I'm talking about? Did you watch the debate?
No, I did not the vice presidential debate, but I watched the presidential debate. I can tell you, they were going at it pretty, they were at each other's throats big time.
Yep. Well, what I'm talking about in the vice presidential one was that at one point during the debate, when Pence was talking, a fly, a house fly, landed on his head, and he has hair the color of mine, so the fly stood out, and it just sat there. It didn't go away, and he didn't try to brush it away. So I don't know that he was aware that it was there. Haven't read that he was aware that it was there, but literally at that point during the debate, hashtags were popping up about the fly, and people were exchanging comments, not about, his position on this or his, kudos or, damning words about what he was saying, but just about the fly. So I just thought that was interesting. What else did I want to talk to you all about? Well, I don't know that it's particularly helpful. Give me your thoughts. Actually, I'm interested for several reasons, CJ. One, because I realize that you're, a Trump-Pence supporter. Tell me what you thought of that first debate, other than that it was contentious.
Well, I honestly have to say, Trump used a lot of his own facts, what his accomplishments were, basically, such as the Operation Warp Speed recently to fight this pandemic, and what was happening in a lot of these Democrat-run cities, where all the violence has happened. Like in Portland, and all the incidents that happened, and all and the fact that no one has done anything to solve the problem. Not the people running it, and the fact that seeing how moderate Joe is, he really can't what's the word? He really can't he doesn't seem to realize what is happening in his party, or the fact that he's been in politics a long time, and Trump said this as honestly as possible. For 47 years, he has not accomplished a whole lot, and when you look at it, Trump's record, it's a lot more plentiful. I mean, border security, the opioid crisis he responded to, the right to try method that he passed, which determines which drugs can help save people's lives. And there was one big thing. I mean, unemployment before this pandemic hit, and of course we're just on the recovering end. a lot of unemployment rates were at all-time lows, especially in a lot of the diverse issues. In a lot of the diverse graphics, the demographics, a lot of the diverse demographics, like the African American, the black unemployment rate was at all-time lows. In fact, he actually created this First Step program. It's called the First Step program, in which helps the completely innocent, those that were innocent in any crimes. It's basically a prison reform program. I mean, in fact, I got a few things that I printed out as far as all his accomplishments in his first 3 years in office. And I can read it to you right here. Yes.
That's all right, CJ. Don't worry about it. It's okay. You don't have to find it.
Right.
Well, I guess what I'm asking you, because you're an intelligent person, and I would ask anybody else who would be on the call, is to think about the debates not as whether they satisfy you from a partisan point of view, but how the people position themselves. So let's pretend you were a Biden person, to look at Trump and see how you think he performed competitively relative to your candidate, or vice versa. And I realize that some of that depends on how you define the word fact and, all that stuff. But just to think of it as a marketing exercise as opposed to a political exercise. And those, in fact, may be the same thing. But anyway, I see you have a Beatles poster behind you. Yesterday was what, the 80th anniversary of the assassination of John Lennon?
No, that's his 80th birthday.
Birthday,
John
I'm sorry.
Birthday.
Right. Okay.
His assassination was on December 8th.
Okay.
We're coming up on the 40th anniversary of that.
I should have known you'd know that shit, CJ.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything you want to ask me or tell me?
No, I think we're good.
Good.
At this point.
All right. I'm going to end the meeting. I'm going to thank you for being here and indulging me while I sort of said some things for people who might look at the video. And, if you want to talk, drop me a note. We can have a, conference call anytime you want. All right.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And you didn't comment on my background.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
I've been telling people that since everybody's in quarantine, nobody's using the White House briefing room. So I thought I would, but I haven't gotten a laugh on that yet. So another failed. All right.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.